Alors bonsoir tout le monde.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular public meeting of the 8th of April. And without further ado, we're going to go to the welcome announcement. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to accept the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So once again, welcome to everyone, and we have special guests here tonight, and we're going to try to go through our agenda without wasting too much time. So, declarations. No, first of all, we have a quorum. Yes. Declarations of conflicts of interest. No declarations of conflicts of interest. So, we go to the adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. Yeah, we have to be quick tonight. Seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So the agenda is carried as presented. Presentations, inquiries, and petition 7.1. Inquiries by council members to Kodiak Regional RCMP. Good evening. It's funny, I see no lights being turned on. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I see no lights on from members of council. Maybe that's a good sign. Maybe it's the results that we've heard in the news lately, specifically. So you probably won't be able to talk to us about it, but maybe I can say to the population that we're being vigilant. We have to be vigilant. There's a little snowstorm. I haven't ordered it, but it's coming anyway. So we have to watch out on the roads, I think between 15 to 20 centimeters. So we have to be careful. So is that it? So as usual, you're very welcome to stay with us, but if you have to leave, we will understand. So, second item, 7.2, Monsieur Richard is going to be taking the mic. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I have the pleasure tonight of presenting you our Mayor of the Day. It's an initiative of the municipality for the second time this year. It's an initiative from the Ready New-Brunswick that gives the opportunity to the youth from 7th grade from the city of Dieppe to propose a subject if they were a project, if they were mayor for a day, what kind of projects would they have. So I'm really happy to present to you the recipient of the award, Sophie Melançon. She's participated Friday with our mayor for the whole day. They had the opportunity to be with the mayor for the whole day with meetings and things like that, but also opportunity to present her subject to her project to the municipality. And there was also a dinner meeting in Capelé with all the other mayors from the region, so exchanges on different types of projects. Tonight, it's basically to have a last picture opportunity with the members of the municipalities. And I'd also take the opportunity to thank Sophie for her contribution. Her idea was basically what was she proposing was a playground and a new school, Antonine Maillet. So right now, there's no playground for 6th to 8th grade. So she had the opportunity to present her project and also to learn a little more about the different factors or different challenges, opportunities, standards that we have to respect when we create parks here in the municipality. Knowing that the park was presented was on the provincial land, what can we do as partners? So there's a whole discussion to be had around all this. And tonight we just wanted to thank Mr. Mayor. I can't talk on behalf of Ready, but I mean, it was accepted for a second year to play the part for this initiative. So I don't know if you have anything to add. If not, I'll invite Sophie to the photo op right in front. Well, maybe I would invite her to maybe come up to the mic and to tell us about her project, but especially why, because I think that it is at the heart of the discussions. Why did she decide to talk about this specific project? Well, I think that it's really important, leisure, fun time, especially for the youth of our school, because we like to play outside. It's very important, and I mean, there are a lot of us, especially next year. So I think it would be something that's important because we're going to be quite a few, and also the parking is not that big. And I think there's also the question of the type of things that we see in playgrounds that would be different. Yeah, well, at our school, we're a little older now, and the slides and swings, we're not that much interested in anymore. So the company Chuckfic is a company that make play games for it outside. It's kind of a jungle type of thing with poles, with stairs. It's like an obstacle race, and a lot of our kids in our school are interested in that. So I think it would be something good for our school. It looks a lot like the Ninja, right? That's it, Ninja. Okay, yeah, you did a good job. To finish off, we have to mention also that Sophie is important in leadership. She's also the president of the student council at her school, so it's also a good thing for leadership. And I think that Mr. Mayor was able to share a couple of tips with her. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was a great day, actually, and I'm really proud to see youth from our community who are already getting involved, like Sophie. And I am not worried for my chair. Not right now, but I mean, by what I see, there are some upcoming people that might be interested. Yeah, that would make a lot of people, a lot of Melançons on the third floor, actually. Okay, so now we continue with our agenda. You're all welcome to stay, but I would understand if you leave. I mean, maybe we're a little too boring or a little too long. On the other hand, I say that our agenda is quite light tonight. So without further ado, we're going to go to Madame Lise Casey from Ernst & Young to present the financial statements. Or Stéphane, do you have a couple of words to say before that? Afterwards? Okay. So, Madame Casey, so maybe to introduce. So to present the results of last year's audit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to give you a summary of the audit ending 31st of December 2018. So first of all, we've done the audit in conformity with the Canadian accountant standards for the public sector. So the financial statements, you'll notice, are different from internal accounting per funds, but the financial statements have to be prepared in conformity to the standards of public sector. So we have to do different things. So I confirm that we have an unqualified opinion, which means that the final statements are in conformity with the public sector accounting standards. And I also want to specify, for those who will be reading the whole report, you probably noticed that this year the report was different from previous years. But it's just because they're different. There's been a change in norms, in standards. And also, tell you that the financial statements are consolidated. In other words, they integrate all the Dieppe capitals, but also Expansion Dieppe and also Gestion 1604. So to summarize, for the consolidated financial statements, so we're talking about the results in conformity with public sector. For the revenue, they are higher. Your tax mandate, 49.3 million for 2018. Services, which is basically water and sewer, 12.3 million. Contributions to capital contributions from other governments, grants refunded, 4,000,009, and other revenue, 4.7 million, for a total for 2018 of 71,287,000, compared to 70,000,003, which is an increase of $964,713 for 2018. Now, if we look at the main expenses, once again, this is the public sector accounting for 2018. Protection services is 12 million. Amortization of capital assets, 11.7 million. Transportation services, 7.5 million, and other expenses, 27.9 million, for a total of expenses for 2018 of 59 million, 0.3, compared to 58.1 in 2017, an increase sort of expenses of 1,215,000. If we look at the surplus, once again, this is the public sector, so total revenue that we've seen, less expenses, a surplus of, for 2018, of 11.96 million, compared to a surplus of 12 million, 0.2 of 2017. So for public sector, there's a deficit of 250,501. Now, if you go back to the funds, so for the surplus for general operating funds, the surplus, $583,007, and the surplus for water and sewer for 2018 is $79,760, for a total surplus of $662,767. As you see, as a result, there's a big difference between the accounting public service sector and the internal accounting principles. That means that we're proceeded to adjustments of 11.3 million, and these main adjustments, you see the list in front of you. So we have for capital grants, 4.9 million, expenses of capital in operational for the 5.8 million, repayment of long-term debt is 8.1 million, and once again, this is not an expense when we talk about public sector. Transfers to reserves, 3.2 million, and amortization of capital, that's something that we add when we do the public sector, 11.7 million. And finally, the surplus of the previous year that are excluded from the public sector, that's 744,140. And now, if we do an overview of your cash flow, as you see in the financial statements, that's public sector. We're always talking about the surplus of the exercise. We make adjustments to show what the variation was in the cash flow or of your bank accounts over the year. So here we start of your surplus of 11,009,000, and then we add the amortization of capital and other monetary. You'll notice that the cash flow for operations is that represents your revenue less the expenses that had an impact on the cash. Of this amount, there's always some disbursements, repayment of the debt long term for 2018 net was 7.6 million, and also you've acquired capital assets. These investments net were 14.8 million. That's a cash flow, annual cash flow before the other elements of minus 328,000. And at 31st of December 2018, your cash less plus the term deposits was 15.6 million. And as you'll notice, in cash is your balance is pretty close to your reserve. As you can see here, your general operating reserve is 2.6 million at the end of 2018. General capital investors is 8.6 million. Operation water and sewer is 626,000. Capitalization water and sewer 2.1 million, and lands for municipal parks is 170,000 for a total of at the end of 2018 of 14.3 as opposed to 14.8 at the end of 2017. So there's a reduction of 524,000 for 2018. If I look at certain financial ratios, the first one that I want to show you, this ratio represents the repayment of interest and the repayment in capital in percentage on the in percentage to the general expenses of general operating. So in 2018, that percentage was 15.97%, a slight increase from 2017. And finally, here we see investments in capital as compared to previous years. So in 2018, it's invested 15.1 million, lower than 2017. But if you compare the averages of the last year, you see that 2018 is fairly close to the average, and making 2017 kind of abnormal. The balance of the debt, 31st of December 2018, the debt was 86.7 million compared to 94 million in 2017. So it shows that you've made payments on your debt that were higher than the new debts that you acquired. And my last is a comparison of general operating budget and the tax values to show that yes, your annual budget of 2019 has increased by 4.5% as opposed to 2017. But when you look at the taxation, it's 4.2%. So it's fairly similar to the increase of the revenues that you will be getting from the tax value. So that puts an end to my presentation. I don't know if there are any questions before Stéphane gives you a little more information. Questions from members of council? No questions? It's clear? It really shows that we're healthy. Mr. Thériault. You are the one who is going to get all the questions. That's good. That's good for me too. Thank you, Madam Casey. She's just presented. I just want to focus on the difference between our results that we have in our internal accounting as opposed to the audited financial statements. There's not that much of a big difference. Madam Casey showed you the difference between the two. When we talk about our results, we're talking about 583,000 general operational. Essentially, it's the difference between our revenue of 54.7 as opposed to expenses of 54.1. That's where the 600,000 is. That represents approximately 1% of the budget. And then for operational water and surplus, a surplus of $80,000, which is essentially the difference between 12.65 million of revenue and the 12.57 of expenses. It's $80,000, 0.7% of the budget. Now, to explain a little more in detail, I'm using the wrong, there we go. So the 583,000 and the thousand, which is approximately 660,000 if we add them both. I'm moving back a little bit. I'm coming back to October last year, when at that time we had our budget session, and there are two figures that I asked for the CEO. First of all is the budget. What is their 2019 budget? But the second figure is also important. It's the estimate of the year end, how we're going to end 2018. So that means that we go back basically to October. And the objective with all that is to do the transfers to reserves properly to get a more or less neutral result. That means that we have a revenue or at least a surplus, basically no surplus at all. On the other hand, the year-end surplus, it was 583,000, but essentially because we've set everything back to zero for the year-end predictions, and those are the real results of the year. That's 583,000. For the general operating, the first item is a reserve of 384,000. That was budgeted in our budgets for the complex, the financing. But in order that we have room for the other transfers, that one we didn't do immediately. He will be coming back as a surplus in 2018, but afterwards he'll come back as a surplus in 2020 because we push him back. At that time, we will transfer everything that should have been, in other words, basically to the funding of the complex. The balance, we're talking about 69,000 here. These are not big items. 69,000. As far as revenue, we're talking about the investments. They were under-evaluated by 25,000, for example, for rent, 20 for the aquatic center. So these are not big items. This is what brings us to 69,000. For the expenses of 130,000, we're talking about smaller items like legal costs. Our estimate was 45,000, was less than 45,000. Maintenance, sidewalks, maintenance of the municipal hall. So there have been surpluses in those accounts. There was a small deficit, for example, in snow removal, 50,000 deficit. Budget, we're talking about 1.3 million, and real budget was 1.4, so slight deficit there. For the water and sewer, a surplus of 80,000, 40,000 were the revenue, 40,000 with expenses, and these are small amounts. Here we're talking about services when we have to, for example, cut for when the new house that's being built. It's basically to connect it to the network. So there's revenue there. Investments, $10,000, and then water and sewer to 10,000 more than what expected. And then finally, in expenses, the 40,000. The biggest item that I was able to find was with water treatment. In other words, maintaining the water system, $15,000 surplus, and that was on the source. That's $20,000. So that puts an end to my presentation. If you have any questions. Questions from members of council? Monsieur Godet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you explain to me? You talked about snow removal budget. Did I understand that we went beyond the budget? Yes, we went above that by 50,000. Essentially, the items within that budget that were above, if I remember, there was overtime, a small deficit, $20,000. Also, the purchase of salt. That was also on the deficit side. When the budget for this year is compared to the previous one, in maintenance, I think we increased by 3 or 4%, but we also have an amount in reserve if we have more expensive than anticipated. No other questions? So, thank you to all. I see that are all department heads We know about the responsibility that they have within the organization to always improve. Our vision is continued improvement that will give us the opportunity to save money in order to put them in different funds to continue to move our community forward. Thank you to all. Item 8, questions by our numerous members of the public. No questions, so we continue with the adoption of the minutes, moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Cormier. All those in favor of the adoption of the minutes of the 25th of March last, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So, the minutes of the 25th of March have been accepted, adopted, as carried, as unanimously. So we continue with this meeting with motions, memorandums, and nominations. Item 10.1, Finance, adoption of financial statements for April for 2018. For the reading of the resolution, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That Council adopt the audited financial statements of the City of Dieppe for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018, as presented by the firm Ernst & Young. So moved. Moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution for the adoption of the 2018 financial statements is carried unanimously. Thank you to all. We continue with 10.21, Public Works. Mr. Melanson. Good evening, everyone. First of all, second subject you have before you, the purchase of a dump truck chassis with Lonsbury Heavy Duty Truck Limited at the cost of $151,481 plus HST. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, we'd sent an RFP and we'd acquired a vehicle. We needed a second one. This is the second one. And this one is attached with the sale of a grader. So we've sold the grader, and now to improve the snow removal services and de-icing, this vehicle is necessary to go with the level of service that we are looking for approval tonight following an RFP. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Godet. That Council award the tender for the purchase of a dump truck chassis Volvo model for the Public Works Department to Lonsbury Heavy Duty Truck Limited at the cost of $151,481 plus HST, pursuant to its proposal dated January 14, 2019, and authorize this expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-3-20-12-7901, General Capital Budget Equipment Program. So moved. Moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question, Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, out of curiosity, there was a $280,000 budget, and here the motion is for the purchase of something that costs $151,000. Is it a good deal, or what's the reason why? Well, we probably had a, yes, good deal, but the following resolution concerns the accessories. The truck is the truck as is, then has to be equipped. So the total to put the accessories for of a truck like that, it reaches around the budget that you just mentioned. So he was starting to get excited. You all had great ideas as to where we could spend that extra money, right? Yeah, I could see that. Okay, no other question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is carried as presented. Now, 10.2.2. The presentation is already made, so this is accessories for the work, for the truck. So we had the possibility to install accessories on a second truck, so with applied pressure incorporated for the amount of $76,500 plus HST. That's the recommendation of the department. For the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That council award the tender for the installation of accessories on the Public Works Department's dump truck to Applied Pressure Incorporated at the cost of $76,500 plus HST, pursuant to its proposal dated February 12, 2019, and authorize the expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-3-20-12-7901, General Capital Budget Equipment Program. So moved. Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried as presented. So now I said that the agenda was light. We're at 11 items, municipal bylaws, and we have no bylaws. Notices of motion. No notices of motion. Going forward. Inquiries and announcements by members of council. Now here, I'm pretty sure that it's on your side, Mr. Godot. Yes, and I have nothing for you tonight. Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I heard about a request for feasibility studies for crosswalk, Engelhardt. Madam Spencer. Hello. Yes, Councillor Leblanc. Actually, we've assessed the situation and we determined that crosswalk would be good, but we would need traffic lights to stop the traffic due to the speed on Boulevard Dieppe, and there's no sidewalk. So we'd have to find the budgets to go forward with the installation this year. So we're waiting for the RFPs, see if we're going to get some good prices, and we'll get back to you with a recommendation. Not stoplights, just it's not like ordinary crosswalks with the little people, little figures that light up. It's like Alain Gillette on Acadie. Before there was the traffic lights. When a pedestrian wants to cross, the light will go red, but when there's no pedestrian, the green stays green. The light stays green for traffic. Thank you. Yeah, I was asked the question during the weekend. Like it was said, it'll depend on the expenses in the RFPs. We hope that the RFPs will be positive because there's not that much work on the roads that is going to be going on during the province. I think that means that people are going to be looking for work. Yeah, so we hope so. Yeah, we have a little bit of work to give them. No questions? Oh, no, sorry. No, what am I doing? It was just a request for information. Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. May. I'd just like to congratulate our girls under 14 who won in Ringette Championship in... Okay, we don't need a resolution for this either. No, I'll have my colleague do the other congratulations. Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. Last week, I participated in the Mosaic press conference. They have a very interesting program. It's going to occur in July. And I would invite people to participate because there are beautiful things that are going to be presented. And I saw in the program that the biography of one of the singers who's going to be singing, she's going to be singing in 4 languages. And she can sing in 8 languages. I had a thought. I said, we have a lot of co-citizens who cannot even learn a second language. Well, when you hear this, it's very difficult to understand. And then secondly, a couple of residents talked to me about the blue bags that are distributed to the houses. And I know that we've talked about this in the past, but I'm wondering, the question that I was asked was, could the city maybe do something to stop this? This is newspapers or sent in blue bags. At a time when we talk a lot about the environment and sustainable, we receive paper that's junk and that's not interesting for anybody. I think we should think about it seriously. As a beginning of thought, we're going to ask our clerk to. We're talking about the blue bags, the publicity bags. 2 years ago, we had a meeting with the representatives of the company that there were problems with the bags that were being cut up in the snow blowers. It was a problem. So we had mentioned things to be corrected. At the time, there was good collaboration on their part. Things were improved, but I do understand that it's starting up again. So we will look into it again with these representatives, and we'll definitely talk about it. Asking the question, can we do about it? Can we do anything about it? Yes, one of the solutions was to make sure that those bags be available outside of businesses in baskets, but it's not something that they're interested in. They see a loss of revenue on their side. So we're not there yet. It's a possibility. I can see with them and with you what could be done. I know that people can... we could contact them, but nobody answers at Brunswick News. It's always leave a message, and I've left many messages, and they continue dropping them over there. So one day, I saw the guy who was delivering them, and I told him, I said, I don't want them anymore, and it worked. So people who want to call them so that they stop this service, it's very difficult to reach them. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Simard will be passing the message along. So I don't know if there's a long-term solution individually for the people who don't want to get these things. Maybe something that would be more efficient. I mean, if we leave them a message, I would hope that somebody is going to listen to those messages. Basically, all these questions have to be asked. Thank you. Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Monsieur RCMP Breton said, the storm that's coming up. Be careful, drive safely, and also be careful, especially for those who've changed their tires, because I know some people have done that. So really, please, be careful on the roads. Yeah, it's because of them. All those people who change their tires, they are the ones who are responsible for this snow that's coming up. Thank you very much. Monsieur Alain. Comments. Humanitarian gala by the youth of Mathieu Martin. A lot of us participated. There was $32,000 that was collected. It's incredible. Stephen was a fantastic speaker, but I tip my hat to Francille, and it was the main team and the whole team at the humanitarian gala. There was a great presentation. We had much fun. The volunteer gala, this Volunteers Week, so I invite all citizens to the Arts Center. We want to thank our volunteers. Wednesday, 10th of April. Question for our CEO. The immigration file last year, the 17th of April, in l'Acadie Nouvelle, Richard Saillant is sending a red flag for immigration. We didn't talk about immigration in the provincial elections. It's a very important topic. There's manpower, human power that's getting older. It's much more difficult to find employees. Immigration can play a part in this, in rebuilding New Brunswick. We have our role to play here in the city of Dieppe to help in the immigration file, I'm wondering, we had an initiative here in the municipality. I don't know if it was started and where it's at. Yes, Mr. Mayor, certainly, Councillor Alain. Since the January, we have one person through Expansion Dieppe, Bénédicte Hendry, who is the responsible agent for the immigration sector. She's been here for 3 months. She's working on the development of a strategy for the city of Dieppe that goes with the review of the strategic plan with the Riverview Southeast. That's also linked to the strategy of New-Brunswick. So the process is going to finish in the region within the next month, and then we will start public meetings with the people from our community on the development of our strategy. So that's one of the initiatives. Equally, Dieppe Moncton Review have received a pilot project with Marie-Pierre Poirier, who is someone who's doing the follow-ups for immigrants and their placement. So it's basically matching them with the businesses who might be interested. That person is available. She's here at Municipal Hall with a pilot project that was funded by the province of New Brunswick. So we have 2 initiatives on the way. We don't know them too well, but we're going to be doing much more about it. And we're going to make sure that the community of Dieppe is as inclusive and that they integrate the new immigrants that are coming here. And the same thought. Have you finished, monsieur? Yes, okay. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. No. Last week, Tuesday, Monsieur Mélenchon, myself, and Monsieur Godbout went to visit Toronto Dominion, the TD venue, and I must say that they're reaching 300 employees on site, and they're getting ready to hire another group of 50 employees in May. There's a big team that got in January, and there's a new group that came in April. There's 2 months of integration, but now, the 2nd of April, we were there. It was the first day of work for the new comers, and then there's another group of 50 that's going to be coming in May. So I was listening to the statistics of real estate people and the growth of more than 7% compared to last year. So I can assure you that in great part there's a lot of that combined to the fact that there are a lot of people who are selling their houses and moving into apartments. But with the people coming from the outside, we had a meeting with the top 6 heads of the TD place, and all these people come from away because these are senior. We're talking about responsible people, positions, and then the other ones, the majority from either everywhere in Canada, Vancouver, North Bay, Toronto, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, people who have come back to the region equally, who'd been gone for years and who see now a great opportunity to come back to the region, whereas they're getting closer to retirement age. So certainly the place as an office, I've seen quite a few professional heads, offices, international. I can assure you that here, the TD, their venue is first class. We're talking about an official opening sometime this summer, July or August. So I hope that everybody will have the opportunity to go see the place. It's really spectacular as a workplace, as a workplace atmosphere, really very modern. But it's obvious that it's part of the challenge that we have, because it's the type of operation that will make the possibility for all boats to raise, as we say, because we see that in their contact center, the customer service part, the salaries are higher than the average in the region. So we see that, but what it will do is force other businesses in this same type of business to raise the bar. So it's all good news for the region. I know that we will benefit from it here in Dieppe, because I know that Dieppe is the preferred site for people who have bought houses. This is what the TD people have told me. I'm sure that if it hadn't been the case, they wouldn't have mentioned it at all. But the fact that they emphasized it, I think that it's a very good thing for our community. But people settle from Coverdale, because people come from Toronto, so Coverdale is very attractive as an environment for them. And obviously here in Dieppe we have a welcoming community here too. As a matter of fact, when I talk about welcome, I have to emphasize here that in the region we've welcomed the grandson of Nelson Mandela, who was here in the region. He had a major impact, specifically with the youth. He talked at the Wesleyan Center with approximately 1,000 people, 200 adults, 800 young students. So I had the privilege of meeting him for an hour, 45 minutes. 45 minutes or an hour, and he's a very humble person with a very important message for all communities concerning inclusion, acceptance, and all these messages that we need to repeat continually. As you know, when I go to public meetings and I have the opportunity to speak, particularly with immigrants, I really emphasize the fact that we need them and how they have to be present in our community, because unfortunately over the last years, a lot of youth who've come in from the international to the university or community college, and we didn't see them in our communities. And every time I see them, I say, you have to be visible. Join boards of organizations, for charitable organizations, community organizations, in order to help integration. So I gotta move away from my pulpit, but it's just to basically emphasize the challenges that we have, the solutions also in immigration. But I know that in the manufacturing sector, it's a big challenge, because it's not the sexiest thing as a subject, but it's necessary also so that we can continue to move forward our economy, especially when we see robots coming up everywhere, and that's not necessarily what we want to see. Now, I probably can go on for another 20 minutes about what I did last week, but once again, I just want to reiterate that this week is the Volunteer Recognition Week. We have to show that we appreciate them, we have to encourage them, because without them, we know that the millions of hours that they give in communities, there are so many organizations that could not work without them. So congratulations to all these volunteers, and I'm really looking forward to celebrate them Wednesday this week. The breakfast of Tri-Communities is Thursday morning. The breakfast, for the same reason, for volunteers. That being said, thank you very much. Good night to all.